What is going on, family? Hopefully you're doing well. Welcome back to another Stock Sermon Sunday. Hopefully you're blessed. You've had a great weekend, had an awesome summer. As summertime is approaching the end, which for some it's not. You're just saying, hey, it's going to keep going until I say it stops, Brian. But seriously, this is a time for folks to, relax, chill, spend time with family. I know a lot of folks as grown adults, you're still working. But maybe you got some kids, maybe you got family time, some trips that you've been taking and you've been taking some time off. But hey, the market doesn't stop. Business doesn't stop. Growth doesn't stop. And I'm still going to show up here every Sunday until otherwise. Now, what you have seen from me, and this no excuse, is you haven't seen many videos intra week, right? So some of you have been like, man, like, where's Brian's like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday updates? Like, I want to see what's going on with the markets. Like, right. So I haven't been updating in the middle of the week simply because the summertime is typically a little bit slower. So the summertime is a time for either a direction just to continue, as you've seen, where there's just been bullish and it just keeps going up and up and up. That's a time where a lot of investors are just letting their long-term stock portfolio just ride and they're enjoying the summertime, right? Trading opportunities are still there, but the volatility and the movement is not really as it was in maybe April or May time. So we've just been kind of chilling. We've still been trading inside of Leverage University. So if you're not inside of our Discord, the link's down below. There should be a 3-day free trial that some of y'all have still been kind of chilling on and waiting and seeing if it's right for you. And that's perfectly fine if you are chilling, if you're in other groups, right? If you just like watching the YouTube channel and learning, that's cool too. But just know that there is a next step for you just in case you're like, hey, I really want to learn this. I want to see what it's about, right? It's a cancel anytime, so no strings attached. You're more than welcome. But typically my members or students or clients are making their money back. But yeah, if they do the work. Cool, we ready to go? All right, I've been keeping this roughly around an hour 15 max. Okay, if there is any questions during this time that we're going through these charts and information, if there's any stocks that you want me to look at for maybe your portfolios, I've been getting a lot of questions around that. My family members or anyone else has been asking me, hey, Brian, I'm up, significantly, right, on NVIDIA. I'm up significantly on my crypto portfolio. I'm up, in this position, right? And I'm trying to wonder, like, how do I manage this? What if there's a big pullback and I give back all the gains? So if there's any questions around that, obviously not financial advice, but you're more than welcome to ask and kind of give some ideas. We ready to go? All right, cool. Appreciate you, Dennis. What's going on? What's going on, Marlon? How you doing? Appreciate y'all. If y'all could share the good news, maybe screenshot, tag me, all those good things, that'd be great. And yeah, we'll jump right into it. All right. Share screen here, per usual. Here's our Discord, so you can see there. I'm not going to go through all this, but this is the inside scoop. If you want to see what's going on in here, right? We've got it separated into different hubs, right? You can see our crypto hub. So, yes, I know crypto's going crazy. We've been talking about it for a minute. So if you have some altcoins, maybe you have a little bit of XRP, maybe you have some Solana, some Cardano, if you've got Ethereum, if you got Bitcoin, just something, right? Some of the crypto miners as well, like Mara, Riot, Clean Spark. We've been talking about those for a while, and we update them all in here. So you can see my Doge, ADA, ETH, Sol, XRP, all of them are all up from where we entered. Okay. XRP, I've been giving levels since the beginning of the year, and it is almost to $4 at this point. I think it's at 360 or 370. So $3.60. So it's pretty much just bull flagging, going to those levels. Pretty clean there. Again, while the charts is where the money's made. All right. So nothing to write home about other than it's doing what it's supposed to do. All right. ETH is almost at $4,000 again. There's that perfect trend line there. It just bounced right at 2,300 and it's reverting right back up, trying to retest that 4,300 and some change. Everyone's waiting for that $5,000 mark on ETH. So they're picking up some steam. All right. So crypto doing well. All right. Here's our trading floor if y'all want to see that. Congrats to all my bull people. Okay. For all my bull people, I mentioned it on here. So I'm not gatekeeping it all, even on YouTube. You just have to listen and show up, right? If you don't know what you're doing, then that's where the Discord comes in. But other than that, you see this bull chart that I've been talking about here, and you see it's separated into shares and leaps. Okay, so we've got a bull position. I signaled that pretty much here around May time when Robinhood and crypto started picking up. And I knew that bull was going to kind of be that lagger behind, kind of being that next Robinhood. So double bottom, $10 to $12, pick up shares, contracts all the way out to 2026. The further, the better. Okay, I've got a $20 target on this. It's already at 17.18 and can't deny it there. There's May 12th. So our levels and charts are pretty much on point. It just might take some time. So this was a beautiful, beautiful level here, a pullback, and it is reverted back, as you can see right now. I signaled my last one back on the 16th, so last week, and that was the entry right there. You see that right there, okay? And then there's the final product, right? Almost at 17, going right to that $20 level. So just to toot our own horns in here. It's not just me, right? There's Dreamer right there. She picked up bull shares at $10. She's almost up, 100% on her position. So I'm just saying, okay, that's the benefit. I can't jump on YouTube every 2 seconds personally and try to update as much as I can, right? So just to let y'all know, but hopefully you picked some of those up if I mentioned it a couple stock sermon Sundays ago. So I'll mention some more opportunities that are coming up, but just want to throw those wins out for the community there. All right, let's go into our economic data really quick, see what we got for this week. And the title today is, a correction coming. That's the thumbnail that you see. The correction, the pullback. We're starting to see some signs, and you can't time it, right? It's always a negative Nancy coming out saying something like, there's going to be a crash, there's going to be a pullback, there's going to be something big, right? A lot of us investors or traders, if you start hearing that tone, like, hey, be careful, it's not a fear-mongering thing. It's not like we're trying to ruin someone's party. It's just looking at the charts and saying it's about that time. So you don't know when it's going to be. It will be out of nowhere, and you want to be prepared for those things, okay? So that's why I put that title today over the last 2 weeks, is that we're starting to see some signs, right, of maybe some exhaustion, right? Some slowing down, some liquidity grabs at the top, just gap up the one day, another gap up higher. And it's just trying to get to its top end level. And there could be some orders there. That's what a liquidity grab is, that triggers that downside whenever that comes, okay? All right, this week we've got existing home sales. We got Fed Powell. There's still some remarks there at 8:30. I don't think that's going to be too big there, but he is speaking on Tuesday. PMI, so kind of a light week, I would say, kind of a light week going into the close of the month of next week at GDP, and that's really where I think some profit taking is going to start happening, is really towards maybe the end of this week. And then into next week towards the end of the month. I'll show you on the charts what I'm talking about. It happened last year around this time, around the end of July. The pullback kind of came a little bit early than it typically does. And if any of y'all want to know seasonality, if you're not too familiar with seasonality, typically the August, September, October, typically September and October are those more bearish kind of months, okay? So if you're looking and you're like, man, I missed the breakout, I missed this upside, I missed so much opportunity from April, it will recycle again. Okay, so a lot of people are just keeping cash on the side. They're just trading, right? I would not recommend buying these highs. Okay, so just wait for the pullbacks. If it keeps going higher, just be like, okay, cool. It's another gap up, another higher high. And there's some tech stocks that may have, some opportunity, like we talked about. If you've been listening to me for the last couple of weeks, I've been mentioning Apple, Amazon, and Google that are lagging behind. So those are still opportunities I think that are great buys at where they are. But anything else, as far as some of the semiconductors, whatnot, I think they're a little bit overextended. So just wait for those red days at this point for your buying opportunities or dollar cost average. Okay. All right, so there's the sentiment, and we got FOMC next week. Okay, so that should be interesting. Just want to pay attention to why some profit taking may come in towards the end of this week, is because we've got that FOMC rate cut decision next week, right? Anytime there's Powell on the docket, or anytime there's that type of news, consumer confidence, things like that, right? Investors might take some profits off the table. So just be prepared. We'll see what happens, but focus on this week first. All right. Let's get rid of that. And let's go into our earnings. We are in the middle of earnings season, or I should say in the beginning of earnings season. This week is the start to our first kind of tech earnings that came in. Netflix came in last week, but this is the week. Where is it? Trading floor and go into earnings calendar. Let me pull it up. It is packed. Okay, so if you haven't seen earnings before, if you came into our Discord or you found me online here, just learning, and you're like, oh, what is earnings, right? I have a lot of beginners that come in, so I never want to lose anybody. Earnings obviously are the quarterly reports for these companies, right? They got to report their guidance, their future guidance, to keep confidence in the investors to hold their shares and to hold a piece of the company. They also need to perform on their numbers. So they need to perform on earnings per share and their revenue. Okay. Are they increasing or are they decreasing, or they have some things that are going on? Is there something exciting to look forward to? Right. So most recently, if you notice, Netflix pulled back on its earnings and it had great earnings. Right. So that was one of those sentiments. If we look here really quick before we jump on the charts officially, here's Netflix earnings. Okay. So right here, you see it pull back from about 1280 to roughly about 80 points. Okay. So that can happen sometimes when you have good earnings. And I know my folks that have heard me for a while, you know this. I'm just reminding people that what happens during earnings season is really looking at, the holistic nature. If it's all the way up at the highs, typically, it's hard to beat. So they might cool off. It might already be priced in. Right. So we'll look at some of the earnings for this week and see what we got on the docket. I'm interested, obviously, on Wednesday. Okay, so this week, Wednesday into Thursday morning. Okay, we got Google, Tesla, IBM should be a big one as well. QS typically moves pretty well. But yeah, Tesla, Google, IBM on Wednesday afternoon. So that means on Thursday, okay, if you want to jot it on your notes or whatever, when we wake up Thursday, I'm going to be looking highly at Tesla. I'm like, if it presents opportunity, I've kind of put Tesla to the side for me personally. I used to trade it a lot and I don't like the way it moves. I don't like how wide the ranges are. So if you do trade Tesla, or if you're a Tesla, trader now more actively, then more power to you. I've put it to the side for me. Okay. But Google is going to be one of my main watches. That's become, my sweet spot this year. Google has been like a money maker for me. Okay. For trading wise, nice range. I can get in the money contracts pretty cheap. So I like Google. Not a lot of risk, can make, 30 to 50 plus. Y'all know, community members inside of Leverage, we've done 100+% on Google, things like that. So Google, I'll be watching for on Thursday morning. Okay. So that'd be one of my main watches on Thursday morning. Let's see here. GM might be decent. Okay. Enphase typically moves a little bit. Lockheed Martin with the war and stuff that we've had in the defense sector, that could be interesting. Northrop as well in defense, that could be interesting. Intel and American Airlines, Southwest. Okay, so Intel on Thursday, that one could be interesting too. And then this is one I want to keep an eye on. I already got shares in it, but this Centene. Okay, for those that don't know, yes, I have a I have a background in healthcare. The doctorate is real. It is a PharmD, a pharmacist. Okay, doctorate of pharmacy. So healthcare is kind of like my sweet spot of knowing some of these healthcare companies. And Centene is a quality company. Okay. It took a massive hit as of recently, and I think it's going to be easy money. And earnings could be that kind of turnaround potentially, as it's extremely oversold. And let me just go to it really quick so I don't forget about it. Okay. So put this on your watch as well. It's kind of like a United Healthcare situation where they got hit from the Medicare, Medicaid. And I want to watch it kind of coming into this, these lows of $25, $24, right? And there's really no signs of any buyers yet. You can see how this candle is looking for the month of July. Just absolutely, bearish here. This candle has gone down from the whole month, 53% in 1 month. Okay. So I am looking for, Centene to turn around. It's just where the bottom is actually going to be. So I want to watch that going into the earnings. And I think it's a great opportunity for, people that may want to grab up some shares, and you may just be looking for some type of, 50% trade. Okay. From here, if it goes back to, just say it's at 25 and it goes back to 50, there's 100% on your money. But just say it goes from 25 back to, just say 35 or 40, right? And you got shares. Well, that's, 40%, 50% on your money. Okay. So still a good equity trade here with not a lot of risk, in my opinion, coming into $20, $25, anywhere there. And you're just looking for this gap to fill right back up. And that could take, potentially into 2026 or something like that. But I think it's a good opportunity for the healthcare sector that's been getting beaten down. There could be a rotation of stocks at some point. All right. Who knows? There might need to be another freaking health scare. Something could come out of nowhere. Okay. So that's on Friday before open. So I'll be looking at that. I'll be taking some notes on Thursday of how that looks to see if I may want to even do a lotto call trade into potentially maybe January 2026, or the lotto would be just right into August, maybe September timeframe. And looking at that and see if I can get some in the money, or I might just do it right in the money here at 30, right? $30 into August 15th. And I may do that lotto, or 32.5, something like that. That's fairly inexpensive. So 25 is kind of that round, even psychological number that it might want to get to. And then I'll look to see if there's an opportunity on Thursday. So put that on your radar. Shares are the safest way, and then options, we got to put more time on it if we want to do that. All right. Cool. All right. Those are earnings. Tesla, Google, main watches coming into this week. Some watches from last week. Typically for earnings, you want to watch as well. The previous week might have some action, okay, because they passed already. So there might be some trading opportunities on some of these, like TSM. It already kind of did its thing. May want to keep an eye on that as well. If it has some volume on it, TSM filled that gap back down from its earnings. All right. So may want to watch TSM coming into this 240 level of what it may do if it bull flags, or if it breaks back underneath 238 and then we start seeing more downside. Okay. American Express had a big sell-off as well. Right. You can see that. So that could be an opportunity, right, for American Express. Come back into this 300 level, a nice psychological round even number. Do you see that daily, right? Daily picking up right there. So American Express sitting nicely right at that, retest of 300, not too far off from it. Okay, so it might be an opportunity if I turn off after hours. You see it kind of gap down there, and there might be an opportunity for it to revert back up if the market gets strong. Okay, maybe it wants to revert back up to fill some of those gaps. We'll just have to see. But as of right now, a little bit of a downtrend on American Express, right, until it maybe reclaims some levels. So we'll see. As long as it holds that 300 level, I'll watch it and see if that may be an opportunity. I forgot to look at PepsiCo, because that was one that the chart looked really good. Dang it. Yep. Golly. Slept. Man. See how some of these just, you'll be watching it forever and then it just sneaks up on you. Do you see I clicked over the chart. Do you see the idea was already there, right? So I was looking at PepsiCo at 130 and even signal inside the community here for, I think, a swing trade. Let's see, PEP. Yep. Look at this. May 15th, 140 call, 135 call, gave the play right at 130, and it's right back at almost 150. Golly. There it was, sitting right there. So PepsiCo looked like it works out, so I'll keep an eye on it. Maybe a little bit of a pullback into this gap, but I think PepsiCo or Pepsi can be easily back at 170, right? Maybe this is a little retest down here into there, and then keep an eye on it. I think it's going back to 170 plus. Okay, so PepsiCo could be another one that could be a nice little dip buy once it pulls back maybe into this gap. So we'll keep an eye on that too. All right, check the chat really quick. Make sure y'all are doing good. What about UNH, Dr. B? Yeah, I'm gonna go all of those. I'm gonna go over all of those. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? I'm looking to short Palantir. Yes. Yep. We're about to jump into it. All right. So that's the kind of the earnings idea. Okay. Just to kind of, maybe you are taking some notes, jotting some things down. I'll update everybody more inside of our Discord. So here we go. Let's jump into SPY. Okay. Jump into SPY. And I want us to look at a couple of things here on SPY, which is this RSI. And I want us to look at a little bit of the MACD. Okay. Let's start with the RSI here on a daily time frame. Okay. Daily time frame RSI. And I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this. And you may have heard of it before, but it's called divergence. That means it's going in the opposite direction. It's kind of starting to sync up. Okay. So a divergence, this is called more sort of a bearish divergence. All right. That means that we have a lower high starting to form on the RSI, but then we have on the chart, we have higher highs and higher lows. You see, that's called a divergence. So this is going the opposite direction. This is going up. Okay. That simply means that at some point, what I was saying is that we could get that pullback. Right. And I know that y'all hear that from me a lot. It's like every time something crazy happens and the market's at all-time highs, Dr. B wants to talk about puts or pullbacks. Right. You know why I do is because a lot of investors they don't even think about it. They just think the market goes up forever, right? Very similar to the shock of this. And then they've bought at the wrong times and they're not prepared for buying the bigger dip, right? Here was the beginning of the year when we said a pullback's coming, Do not buy the highs, a pullback is coming, okay? I'm not saying it's going to be that far down, but I am saying that a red kind of black swan event could come out of nowhere and we could pull back for a correction. All right, correction territory, 3-5%, something like that. I'm kind of looking at that 5% pullback range. I'm not really thinking 10 until maybe the fall time, and the 10% would pull us all the way back into, underneath 600 again. Okay, but I'm really looking forward to maybe pull back into 600 potentially, but we'll see. All right, so that 600 level is kind of that pullback area that I'm looking for. But if you notice here, the 618 is going to be very important. Okay. You see how aggressively that double bottom right there, 618. Okay. So if we turn our alerts on, if at any point over the next month or so, I see a break below 618 aggressively, right? Then that's where I'm going to be looking for, okay, now's the time, dip buys. We're still in a bull market. So even if we have a correction or a pullback, I'm not saying the end of the year can't finish strong, right? That's ultimately what I'm saying, is that a lot of folks are looking for the next buy opportunity, right? So right now, this is what I was talking about, why you haven't been seeing a lot of videos from me intra-week, right? It's like, did this dude just fall off out of nowhere? I don't see any videos from him midweek or whatever. It's because this pop, grind. That's ugly. What do I have to update on other than let your long-term shares go? That is not great. These are not great trading conditions, right? So there's really nothing to update on saying, hey, be prepared, do this, do that, especially if you're not skilled in scalping or very short trades, right? Because this right here, at any point, it could just drop. So if you're just like buy calls, and you catch yourself on the wrong day of buying calls, right? I'd rather short every pop. And that's what I've been doing, right? Only because this RSI is getting up to the top here. Okay. So what I'll be watching on SPY this week is 630. Okay. If we break 630, cool. More new highs. Then I'll be looking at 635, 633. I don't care how much higher it's going. I'm not chasing it. Just keep going higher, keep going higher, keep going higher. I'll just wait on the drop day. Okay. And that's what I've been telling my trading group is, let it go higher. I'm not chasing that. Every day has been a new gap up and a gap up and a gap up, right? Let your long-term shares ride if you've got some and just let it go higher, right? So 630 on SPY is what I'll be watching this week. If it rejects again, if we still remain underneath 630, right, I might be looking at a little bit of weakness to see what it does, okay? But the big area of opportunity or the big area of support right now is right at 620 on SPY. Okay, 620 on SPY. There's a little bit of support right around kind of this area, 625, 626. You can kind of see right there, it kind of stopped right on that retest, 626, and kind of bounced, right? So it might be trying to retest and rotate back up to 630. Okay. So if you want to follow along with my charts and kind of mark them the way I'm doing, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, there's nothing right home about. Any questions on SPY or thoughts on SPY? Can I get a 1 in the chat if everyone understands SPY? Understand SPY. I will not be looking to chase any more highs. That means calls on SPY I'm not really interested in. Just not. Okay. So if it goes higher, I'm just letting it run. Goes a little bit higher, I'll just let it run. Now, for my people that are like, Brian, well, I don't trade like that. I'm comfortable with it. Cool. Then keep this as support at 626, right? And if SPY starts breaking back above this 628, you could get a little bit of a squeeze like this. So you could look for calls back up to try to retest that 630 looking like that. So you can trade it, right? Just be mindful to keep your stop loss below these lows of 627 or 626 level. All right. Because this held up pretty well throughout the day. Could be just curling. Okay. All righty. We good on SPY? What about August 1st tariffs? Yeah. I've got that in mind too. That could be the catalyst. All right. So Ben, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So for those that don't know, the August 1st tariffs are supposed to start implementing. If you noticed that, whenever Trump mentioned tariffs last week, there was a little bit of a, hesitancy to go higher, right? Look at QQQ, like right here. Okay. This kind of chop action, anytime there was tariffs mentioned or he was talking, there was just kind of that, drastic pullback, when it popped, faded, pop, faded, pop, faded, pop, faded. Okay. Those were all kind of tariff talks in between here. Okay. So to your point, Ben, I'm just going to be reading the charts, right? So if tariffs are that catalyst, then cool. Let it be the catalyst. But I just know that the charts are a little bit overextended for a pullback. And we know what that looks like. A pop and it just grinds. Okay. Anytime you have that pop and then it just grinds, that's when I'm waiting on when's it going to crack. And it will look something like that. Okay. It will crack at some point. We just cannot time where that crack will be. See that channel? All right. So that's what I'll be watching for. So don't be surprised when you see it, whether this week or next week, and we come back and we regroup and we're like, hey, we were prepared for higher, but also we were prepared for, oh man, yeah, we talked about that. Like, I'm not shocked. So that any little pullback or whatever, or a red day or a couple of red days may come in with some profit taking. But other than that, we're bullish. Like, I'm not denying that. We're bullish. I'm just not interested in buying any of these highs or chasing them with calls anymore. Just not. And that's just the type of market that we've been in. Now, y'all know, for those that are in my community inside of Leverage and those here on YouTube, it's not that I don't trade calls. It's not that I like shorting the market all the time. I'm trading risk to reward. So if it pops and it just grinds up, I don't like my risk to reward to the upside because there's too much risk to the downside. So if I enter a call position right here, I might get a little bit, but what if it falls? All right. That's how my position looks. All this red position risk with little bitty green reward. So I want to enter calls like that, right? Like you just saw on Pepsi. So I have call positions ready to go, just like that Pepsi position. Look like that. Little risk, big reward. And if it doesn't present itself, then cool. Like just keep going higher. I'll wait. All right. QQQ 560. Obviously, we got a high of, it looks like a little bit of a support right there at 560 holding. So as long as it holds above 560, we can use that as support right there at 560. Okay. If it cracks 560 and it turns 560 into a rejection, right? So if it looks something like this, gets underneath 560, turns that in, sitting at 559, 559, 558, right? We could come back down into that 555 level, right? And that could be that crack. All right. So I'll be just simply watching 560. If it holds it, then it's going to try to retest the high. And this is simply another bull flag, right? To maybe try to head towards that 564 and 565 level. Okay. So I'm not opposed to this going higher at all, especially with big tech maybe running into their earnings. Remember, we got Tesla and Google. So if Tesla and Google perform well on their earnings, then QQQ is going to go higher, right? It's going to go higher. All right, there's QQQ. Pretty simple, right at psychological levels. Nothing to write home about. 560, just watching that. Holds 560, rotates back up to 563, and then 565. All right, IWM. There's some heavy resistance coming in at IWM, almost like a double top here. A little bit different outlook on IWM because we're getting some, pretty heavy top end resistance where it can't get above this this 225, 226 area, but it's stuck in this channel. So it's not, it needs to be at the bottom of this personally, or just push back up to the top and they'll trade it there. So it's in a box, it's in a channel. It needs to break outside of this or trade at the bottom of it and the top of it, top of it, bottom of it. Use 220 as your kind of middle point. That's what I'm using there. See that yellow line, 220 middle point. What does it do at 220? Does it hold and go higher, or does it break underneath 220? All right. So I'll be watching IWM. You can see here on a bigger outlook on a weekly, it's right at that resistance level. That's pretty thick. Okay. Pretty thick on that IWM. So we can trust this level. This is a macro resistance. Okay. And I like trading off macro resistances personally. And macro supports. That just means I have enough information on this IWM right here, right there, right there, right there, right there. Almost 5 or 6 touch points of IWM at 225. Okay. So I want to watch it. I want to see what it does. Maybe scalp it in between. But other than that, we'll see which way it breaks. Okay. Looks like we got the futures market going up after hours a little bit here. So might have a little uptick in the morning. Like we talked about, that bull flag that's forming on SPY right there. Might have a little uptick in the morning. QQQ might have a little uptick. So it might already be rotating by the morning time. All right, let's go to Apple. And I'll definitely get to that UNH like I was talking about, Ben. Apple. It's going to react off Google this week. It's going to react off Google a little bit. All tech is going to react off Google and Tesla. So Apple right now, to me, looks pretty juicy as long as it's above 208. Okay. Apple 208 support. You can use 210, but I like 208 just to make sure. But this looks like a nice little bull flag forming here. If it starts getting a little bit more solid candle, it could try to rotate back up. Remember, I've got Apple as a target of 220, but it's all dependent on a lot of these tech earnings. And Apple's earnings is at the end of the month, so next week, which is going to be interesting, right into FOMC and the end of the month. But Apple, this is what I was talking about earlier, is I think Apple's still a great buy right around $200. Okay. 200 to 210. I've got a price target of 220 to 225 on Apple. So that's up to you. If you want to start picking up some call positions, if you want to maybe pick up some shares, that's up to you. If you already got shares, awesome. Hold on. It's a lagger. And I would say, there's a lot of interest starting to build on these 225s and 230s in August 15th and also into the fall time. If people have a little bit more cash to play with, that's September 19th. And remember, Apple has its event an announcement. So it could push up into the excitement of, their new releases, things like that, which typically happens in that September timeframe. So I've got 225, 230 target on Apple by fall time personally. So I think it's a great time, and we'll just keep stop losses below or pick up more if it falls for its earnings or something like that. I wish it would fall maybe one more time, right? But it might just consolidate here. This is more of a bullish consolidation to me, right? This is a bullish consolidation right here. Anytime you got that, a big pop, and it just sits and sits and sits, it's going to have that breakout pretty soon. Like that. Okay. So look out for Apple, pay close attention to it, keep your alerts on, turn your alerts on Robinhood, whatever. Hey, what is Apple doing? Is it above, 213? Is it above 214? You start seeing Apple above 214, you already know what's happening. Okay. We'll just wait for a pullback, get in and go. But I like it where it is now. Okay. Google, just building, right? I've been talking about Google for a while. I think Google is a sleeper, anywhere but, around 175, 180 for shares. It was a, awesome pickup at 140, right? 150 for shares, right? Anywhere around there, just absolute steal, just beautiful chart here on Google personally. And Google's been absolutely killing their earnings. I mean, so we know what's associated with Google is YouTube. So YouTube views, things like that, their viewership, if that's going to be up for their earnings, they're absolutely going to take off. Google will be 200 plus by the end of the year. Okay. 200 plus by the end of the year on Google. And is it going to start its train right here, into its earnings? Okay. 190 is the first pit stop, as you can see. All right. 190 is the first pit stop. And the only concern, I guess it's a little early to tell. I'm not going to, put this out there, but is this some kind of like head and shoulders and then just fake everybody out kind of deal, So got to get through pit stop 1, which is 190, right? So we'll be watching Google. It looks like 180 to 181 is going to be that big support right now that it's holding up right here, where it's just perched up for the last couple of days, got above, and the first target is 190. So, cool. Google, let's see, earnings. Trying to see like a lotto opportunity on Google as well. August 1st, those contracts are not terrible, but a little bit pricey, and a little bit pricey into this week, obviously with earnings. So if there's a lotto opportunity, maybe, but I'm not spending $200 to $300 on a lotto. So we'll just trade it post earnings and let the shares ride. Amazon, same thing. That's why I have these as right up at the top. Apple, Google, Amazon, not in any particular order, but same type of chart. It could do anything for its earnings, but Amazon just extremely bullish above this 220 level. Above that 220, just extremely bullish here. A lot of buyers sitting right there at that 218 to 220 level. See, last time it was at this 218 level, went all the way back up to damn near 250. Okay. And it looks like it's trying to kind of do that again. Hopefully we can catch maybe some type of little red day, a little bit of a pullback type of deal. Still keeping our head on a swivel, as this is also just a grind, right? This is what we call the summer grind, right? Right. The volume is low. It just grinds up. No one's selling their position. They're just holding and holding, and hopefully it goes higher. Right. But trading purposes, this is not really the best type of chart for trading personally. Right. This grind like this. Okay. So that's why I want a little bit more volatility. I want some candles to kind of like, maybe earnings will shake it up with Google this week. I want some candles to kind of come out like that. I want some candles to kind of come out like that. Right. Just a little bit bigger of volatility back and forth. All right. But these are my top 3 watches going into this earnings season because they're lagging. All right. So Apple, Google, Amazon, are all of them going to just absolutely beat? I don't know. Right. But I just know that they're great share buying opportunities where they potentially are. And if they fall lower, pick up more. All right. Let's jump into some of the semiconductors. So those are main tech. I'll look over the other tech, which is Microsoft and Meta. Meta's been pulling back a little bit. Microsoft is absolutely bullish. Let's jump into Palantir, what Ben was talking about, shorting Palantir. I agree with that idea. Right? With it, I need to see how it reacts with the market. So I like shorting Palantir. I like the idea that it's overextended. I need to see a little bit more signal because, again, what is it doing? It's kind of in this channel, right? So if you have your charts up, draw that channel, and you see here, you can trade it from the top of the channel to the bottom of the channel, to the top of the channel, the bottom of the channel, top of the channel. And guess what? What if it does this and pulls back to the bottom of the channel? Okay. So I agree. All right. That Palantir has some overextension, right? And this could be that kind of double top grind. If I look at this RSI, let's pull it up here next to it. I'm on a 4 hour. Okay, that's close enough to a daily. And do you see last time it got up in this range? Look what it did on Palantir right at the top of that channel. It went from 125 back down to 106. Okay. On this overextension pullback. Look where it is right here again, kind of overextended right there. And it could pull back to some of these supports, which would be probably around 140, maybe 135. Okay. So that's again a 20-point drop where Palantir might want to cool off before FOMC. All right. So I'll be watching Palantir maybe 155, right? If it gets like one more test of 155 and I see it double top, I do like that, Ben. Right? That could be a good risk to reward short opportunity. Okay. So if I'm looking at contracts, right, when you're shorting or, trading against a very strong stock, you need a little bit more either time on your contracts or more in the money. Okay. More right where it is. Okay. So that means I will go out to next week and I will maybe take a look at some of these, that might go down, I could go a little bit further potentially, but if it keeps going higher and wants to go to 160, then those 145s are kind of shot. Okay. August 15th could be a nice date to look at, could get some movement on that. That's plenty enough time away. And just say the market pulls back. There's a lot of interest coming in on those, 130s, even 120s. And I like the price of some of those that could be nice. If we decide to do it this week, I would keep it right around maybe the 150s. If we could get the 150s underneath $200, y'all know that's kind of my sweet spot. So I love contracts that are in between that, $130 to $160 range, $130 to $160. Anywhere underneath $200, I like those contracts if I can get those. So I may look at the 150s to see if those can get a little bit cheaper. All right, I think that 150 is very realistic for Palantir to potentially pull back to this week. All right. So there's your Palantir, Ben. NVIDIA, let's look at it. Perched up here above 170. The same type of idea on NVIDIA. And I know some of y'all are not comfortable shorting NVIDIA, or you just had some trouble trading NVIDIA. Some of you know who you are. But I don't let that restrict me away from what the charts tell me. Okay. So if I have to stop out, I've got to stop out. But if I look at this chart on NVIDIA and I get rid of some of these, right, and I see this big grind up with some gaps below, right? That could be well worth it if we just have one day that the market pulls back and Nvidia pulls back to those gaps, 165. That's damn near a $7 pullback, right? That's 200, 300% on contracts, depending on which contracts you get for options. So for me, that's worth it, to test it out, to keep looking at it, to say, okay, is now the time, Nvidia, is now the time, it's now the time, now the time. Okay, these contracts look really good, right? These 170 puts, right, for weeklies. If you're comfortable with weeklies, if you like putting more time on your contracts, still not bad for the 165s if they pull back there, right? But a lot of interest kind of building on this side as well. I know there's some interest on the call side. And the only thing about that is because we're going to have Tesla and Google earnings. So if Tesla and Google perform well, Nvidia might want to go a little bit higher, right? It might want to go to 175, maybe try to squeeze up to 177 or 180, right? So I really need to see like a true breakdown, maybe below 170. And then I can confidently know that, okay, it wants the gap fill, right? And it would look something like this. Okay. So if we get a reverse and it breaks underneath this 170 like that into the 169s, turns 170 into resistance, kind of does something like this, then we can get that. Right. So I'll be watching the video very closely. I think the semiconductors have been running like crazy. Let me check the chat really quick. Good point, but RSI isn't showing divergent. I'm Robinhood Gold and SoFi. Okay, let me see. Y'all are chatting away on here. Let me make sure what we're talking about. Seems like people are sleeping. What should I park cash, Dr. B? You got some ideas to earn decent yields? Not really, to be honest with you. Not really. Ben, we're thinking the same thing, if we're being honest. Like 4 to 5%. 4 to 5%. I mean, there's some crypto stuff. I'm not sure if you want to mess with that, but there's definitely some crypto staking that you could get some, 15, 20, 30% on crypto staking. But just general yields, I haven't seen anything other than just, 4 or 5%, unless you've seen something. I'll just be honest with you. I haven't really been looking at anything above like, 8, 9, 10% on some of these yields. Right. Let me know. Let me know if you see anything or y'all thinking anything. I'm Robinhood Gold and SoFi. Yeah. But RSI isn't showing divergence. Marlon, let me show people what you're talking about. RSI isn't showing divergence on what? On SPY, QQQ, or on NVIDIA, or what were you talking about, Marlon? Mind me asking. If you're there. Cool. I'll check back. All right, let's keep rolling. And I'm going to get to some bullish things. Like, Brian, looks like everything's overextended. Is there anything that I could buy up right now? Right? A lot of the healthcare stocks, to be honest with you, Merck, still in my opinion, anywhere around 75 to 76 on Merck is still a good share buying opportunity, or long dated leap options. Right? And if it falls down into 70, if that's a true resistance is stepping in right at 85, then if it falls down to, 66 to 70, even better. But a lot of the healthcare stocks, I think HIMSS, right, still a great buy around $50. Even better buy at $34 to $35, and even a great buy at 25 to 30. So a lot of the healthcare sector stocks are, a lot of them on discount right now. Kava still looks great. Still sitting here around $80 for Kava. Still around $80 for Kava. Still love that chart personally. I think it's just perched up here, ready to take off at some point whenever consumer spending or, they come out with their earnings or whatnot. But I think Kava is still just very, very bullish looking personally as it sits here right at above $80. Let's see. SoFi. Okay. If you picked up SoFi shares underneath $10, congrats. We talked about that in the community. I know Billy, shout out to Billy. He was loading the boat underneath $10. So congrats. That's an easy double up on shares. And the level that you would want on SoFi to pull back on is right around $18. This is one that I put inside of our community. I'll just give like a free trade here that this is one that could, if the market pulls back, it could, warrant some type of potential put trade. Okay. And why am I saying that is because it's done one of those pop and grinds. Pop, grind. This is one of the easiest trades that you can, start practicing or waiting for. A lot of y'all have seen me take these live in the community, and all I'm waiting for is a break of that channel. And then I can take it. That's all I'm waiting for is a simple break of that channel where I see a little bit more selling pressure, right? And it breaks out of this grind channel, and then I can find an entry, and I can see that it's going to be pulling back all the way into that gap. Okay. And look at the RSI. Okay. So SoFi, this could be a trade for anyone that maybe wants to kind of get into their first trade. They can test it. I typically don't like signaling put trades for people's first kind of trade or lighter trade, but it's pretty cheap and inexpensive. Okay. So if I do see it in the community, I will signal it, but I'm looking at, going into like October. I was looking at those, or September 19th. Look how much interest is on those 18 puts, 55,000 already on those 18 puts, and they're $65. Okay. Now, would I go that deep, far, all the way out down to 18 puts? Not necessarily. I could go more in the money, which would be 20 puts, right, to September 19th. That will give me, roughly 2 months, and just pulling back into that gap. Okay. But I need to see a trend break first. But the first sign I saw on Friday was this kind of big red candle right there, right? Kind of engulfed these last two candles. Okay. This 1 4-hour candle kind of took out these last 2 4-hour candles. So that kind of gave me a little bit of a sign that, okay, SoFi may be ready to kind of cool off just a little bit. And it's kind of coming up into some of this resistance area, right? Right in here. Okay. Last time it did that, it pulled all the way back into roughly around $17, $18. Same thing, popped into 24, pulled back, popped into 24, 23, pulled back. Same type of deal. So I'll watch it, see what it does. But that is a trade that you could look at. It doesn't cost a lot, and you can also put time on it as well. Ooh, we banked on Robinhood on Friday. Awesome, beautiful trade. Trade review for those that did not see that trade inside of our community. Signaled it here. Just absolute beautiful trade on Friday, which was this Robinhood right here. Okay, so at 7:07 a.m. PST, that would be roughly around 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. 110 puts, 0 DTE, gave the average cost. Here's the chart, how it looked, right at 113 rejection, 20 to 40%. There it is, right at 110, pulled all the way back into 110, and then finally just started going into the gap fill. It reached all the way down into 107. It was like 300% on your money. They went from $60 to $200 per contract on that hood trade. Okay. Did I get the full 300%? No, got 100% and got up out, but congrats to David who took it. David kind of takes the trades in the chat. He's a busy person, so he's not able to jump in live trading a lot, but awesome job there on hood. So that means I'll be looking for it again. Now that I see some serious resistance up here on Hood. Same type of idea, kind of like Palantir you were saying, Ben. I'm looking at same overextension on a lot of these stocks that have just been running like crazy, and seeing if I can catch Hood again. Maybe if it squeezes up into maybe a little higher into 115, right, I can get a bigger trade there. Or if 110 becomes a resistance, I can look at taking it all the way back into that full gap, if you see there, right? And I'll be targeting 105 at this point. Okay, so I'll be looking at Hood again this week to see if, it may have some top end resistance a little bit higher. Okay, right now, bounce really nicely, retrace back up at the top. See if we can catch it again. All right, so keep Hood on your watch. I love the rejection, how it sold off there on Friday and didn't even fill the full gap. So we'll see. Coinbase just went absolutely crazy, upside and back down. So that's another one that's pretty overextended and getting resisted right at the previous all-time highs, which was at 429 and some change. So it broke into new all-time highs. AMD, kind of same thing as NVIDIA. AMD and NVIDIA almost look identical. So I love how this trade has broken this trend. Do you see that? How the trend has changed on AMD, right? With gaps below. That could be a nice trade. I'd rather trade probably NVIDIA, because every time AMD is a massive trade, but also it's a massive fake out sometimes too. So AMD, beautiful looking chart here, in my opinion, risk to reward. If it gives me like one more bounce, I would love that, because it is strong right at that 155, 156. If it holds there and tries to go back higher, cool. I'd look for something like that. Okay, but I am seeing a lot of these gaps that need to be filled back to the downside. A little bit of RSI overextension, right? Look at that AMD overextension. Double top, almost at 80 on a daily. So AMD looks even better, in my opinion, than NVIDIA. It's just really timing it and getting to understand where it's going to break and go lower. So a lot of the semiconductors looking pretty good. So I'll be watching that sector as a whole. ARM, MU. ELF, UNH. All right, Ben, here's your UNH, and we're getting to the top of the hour. So if anyone has any final questions or any qualms, anything I can improve on, right, please let me know. But this is a clean bear flag on UNH. So I don't have a specific level other than to see where the buyers step back in, Ben, because this right here tells me that it wants to retest all the way back to 250 potentially, right? So this kind of candle looks just like a continuation back to those lows one more time, which would be right at 250. So nothing on UNH yet, other than this little bear flag forming out. And I need to see something, candle wise that month, as you can see, wants to go lower. So yeah, we'll just see where it ends up. What happens if the market pulls back? I mean, UNH is a big player. It could go all the way down in the low 220s. Right? We could see a new low being printed all the way back down into 220, 215 if it really wants to kind of accelerate down here. So I'd be patient on UNH. Really no sign of reversal just yet. And it could not get back and hold above that 300 mark. Oh, the SoFi trade? Okay. And AMD, shake my head, never reached 70 in March, and now it doubled. Exactly. I've got AMDL shares, but that AMD just I mean, it's not surprising. It's just, it kind of snuck up out of nowhere. We were talking about it on Friday, just how AMD was just so sneaky with this like little grind up. I mean, I was expecting this a little bit more personally from AMD. When it popped right there, I have AMDL shares, but when it popped, I was looking for it to kind of pull back a little bit deeper one more time and then go. And it just never did that. So, not surprising. It just kept grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding, right? Never gave that big kind of reverse pullback, big push, big pullback, nothing like that. So now it's that time for AMD to just like pull back a little bit like it's supposed to. Let's see where the moving averages are. Daily 20 sitting right at 143. So that would be our pullback level. Our first one on AMD would be 143 to 140 on AMD, right at that daily 20. So that's a beautiful looking retest chart if it pulls back into there like that. Okay, so that would be a target. And then a bigger one would be always this 200-day, which is this orange line here. And you see that divergence cross right there would be 125 if it does pull back even deeper like that. That would be a beautiful retest, right? But 140 to 143 is the first one. How are you looking for a close below the trend line to initiate the break on SoFi trade? Okay, perfect. This is a good question, Marlon. I appreciate the question. So he's asking, when I try to catch these, I typically try to look for a 30-minute or an hourly candle close below that trend. Okay. So let me take off these moving averages. So look, I'm on a 30-minute right now. Okay. The higher the time interval, the more confident I am in the direction of that move. So if I see a 30-minute candle kind of reverse and break a new low like that, and it closes right into a new low with no bottom wick, right? Nothing like that, just closes into a new low. I like that type of candle. So I'm looking for a 30-minute. Sometimes it looks better on an hourly, right? So those are my signals of a trend break, a 30-minute or an hourly trend break. Then I try to look for an entry on the next pop, right? So I look for a small green candle like this, and that's typically where I start trying to enter, is on that green candle for the continuation down like that. Does that make sense, Marlon? So a 30-minute or an hourly break of the trend. But I always wait for the candle to close. And y'all have seen me do this in live trading before. Is I'll catch it. I think I did it on the Robinhood trade. Okay. So I always try to wait for that next candle to close, and it was right here. It was a little bit smaller. So sometimes I'll wait for a trend break on like a 5-minute or a 15-minute if it's, a little bit tighter. So for example, the Robinhood trade was like this. Okay. I was on a 5-minute and I saw a trend starting to form. Here was Friday on Robinhood. Popped, grind. Okay, cool. Let me draw that trend like that. Okay. Do you see how the trend finally kind of started to slow down? And that was the candle I was watching. Then I watched one more candle. I saw it pop, another wick. Okay, cool. I'm watching it. Then I'm starting to see this. Okay. Got one big candle, another wick, another lower high, another lower high. Okay, I'm entering. Right around 112, 110 puts to rotate down. So sometimes, Marlon, it is a bigger time frame, and sometimes it's just watching how the candles react after that trend breaks. And it doesn't always have to be on puts, right? I can watch a trend break on calls as well. So let me see what that looks like here. Look at SoFi as it's pulling down. Okay. So as something's coming down, if you're like, man, I really want to get on calls on something that's pulling back, I'll draw a trend down and start watching it. Okay. You see the same thing. There's a 30-minute break. Okay. That and a little bit too early. Still look, that candle's kind of weak, right? It's not a big strong break back to the upside. Still a little bit iffy. Still a little bit iffy. I'll just wait to the lowest point until I see something that looks a little bit more solid. Okay, wait till the next one. Okay, that's out of it. Okay, maybe I want to start entering right around this 2157 for calls. And I have room to add just in case it double bottoms, right? So just in case it pulls back one more time, sometimes it'll do that and then just take off. All right. So same thing on the call side. If it's trending downward, right? And I want to trade it back up. I draw this trend and wait for that trend to break. Does that help? Yep. Okay. That was clear for you. Cool. Here's a perfect example on Oracle, right? Popped, starts to trend down. And now I just want to watch this. Now, it doesn't always present any type of trade, right? Sometimes the trade might not present itself and I just draw a channel. I'm like, I don't like any of this. I would rather have puts back up here at closer to 250. It's all the way down here. If it just keeps falling, okay, cool. I don't like the put trade anymore because it's already too far from where I wanted to enter. So now I'll get ready to maybe watch where the support is, right around this 240, right? So what if that presents itself and it bounces? And I may want to do something like that. Cool. Awesome question. That's about it for me. That is about it, folks. We're right at that hour 15 mark. I've been trying to keep it short, sweet, to the point. Yeah, no problem. No, that's an absolute great question, man, because in trading more specifically, as y'all been hearing me, there's long-term investing and there's trading. If people would get it across their heads, like our thick skulls, that the chart will help you become a long-term trader, a better long-term investor as well, right? It will help you become a long-term investor because you know exactly where the buyers and sellers are. So if you're just simply trying to buy shares for your long-term portfolio and you're like, man, it's in resistance. Why would I buy shares in top end resistance at a premium price? Maybe I buy a little bit. That's what I do sometimes is I'll buy a fractional share or something like that. Just say I buy $20 worth of, I don't know, just say Nvidia. If it was my first time in Nvidia and I buy $20 worth at $172, right? Then you can track it, right? But you're not loading the boat at the top. And that's where the chart comes in. Yes, Nvidia will be a 200, 300 plus stock again, all that kind of stuff, right? But where's the best entry for Nvidia if someone were coming in the first time? That's what I always think about. Is if someone were to say, hey, Brian, it's my first time ever investing. I've got a kid I want to invest into. I've got, somebody that is in my family that says I should buy this. Where would you tell them to buy? I would say, well, just get exposed. Buy $20 worth, put it on $5 a week, maybe something like that. Just something very light, but be prepared for buying it again at 150 to 155. And because of the charts, that is a prime area for it to pull back potentially to retest. Now, that's a big pullback, right? Like that's, a decent pullback for a strong stock like Nvidia. That's 12%, right? But we've seen it before, right? Here's right here, there's a 7% pullback right there. So we've seen 6, 7 to 10%. So those are the weeks or the days that you want to be prepared for, is to say, okay, now's the day. And the chart helps you with that because that is a retest level. Previous breakout of all-time highs, it retested a little bit, and maybe it wants to retest to 155 to 160 in that area. So you can get it $10 cheaper. All right. And the same thing applies with that trend line. The tighter the trend line, sometimes that will break pretty soon, either up higher or back underneath. Cool. All right. Well, that's it. I don't think I forgot anything. Again, reminder in summary, this week, lighter week. We've got FOMC next week. If you are long on anything, meaning like you only think the market's going to go higher, Brian, I want to trade in the direction. I want to trade bullish. I want to trade calls. The best way to do that is wait until that red day or that pullback day, right? Exactly. You know the example I'm giving, Ben. You know the example I'm giving. Everybody make it relative, you know? The match, if you go spend $200 on a date night or a dinner, put $200 into the market, match it, spend $400, right? That's the game I play personally. Like this week, went out a little bit, spent about $100 this weekend, right? But my preparation this week is to find something for $100, and I've been buying CNC, right? Centene, crypto's already going. It's already going crazy. Actually, let me show that. Is Clean Spark? Let me show that, because that looks, some of these Mara, Riot, Clean Spark look absolutely beautiful. Okay, so pay close attention to some of these crypto miners. Okay, look at this chart on Mara. Starting to kind of curl up like we normally see, as you can see right there. And if Mara starts to get going and we have that, next kind of Bitcoin halving coming up in 2028, we may have another like small pullback on crypto, but the miners are starting to pick up. Riot, where is it? Look at Riot. Look at that chart. See, it's starting to break out of this kind of bullish consolidation down here, this downtrend, 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 downtrend. This is on a weekly breakout, right? So you see that Riot starting to break out of there. If it starts clearing above 16, we can start taking off on Riot. Clean Spark, same thing. Still got our Clean Spark shares that we bought underneath $8 to $9. I think it's still a great buy on Clean Spark around 10 to 12, okay? So some of these crypto miners, look how it's looking on a monthly chart on this Clean Spark. All right, every time it does this, look at the backtrack. See that downtrend? It starts to rotate back up, pick up steam, potentially rotate back up, pick up steam. So it's repeating the same kind of curling action every time. We just don't know how far it's going to go. But yeah, Clean Spark's headquarters is here in Vegas too. So I just need to stop by the headquarters and be like, yo, what y'all doing? What y'all doing? Because we already know what XRP is doing. So congrats to all XRP holders. But yeah, those are some of the ones that I think could start taking off. Elevance is another one really quick that I didn't mention. Again, in healthcare, this is another kind of UNH situation. Look at this drop. Another UNH situation. So healthcare, very much XLV, very much could be a sleeper coming soon. I don't know what they know or what they doing, but is there going to be another health scare that no one knows about? Another vid 2.0 when all the healthcare stocks were down before 2020. It's wild. Cool. All right. Peace, love, and blessings to you all. Thank you all so much, per usual, for the support. We'll be pumping out more videos intra week once I start seeing some stuff happening. If I see some pullbacks, some big news, some things going on, I'll update everybody midweek. If you're still on the Discord, we'd love to have you. If you want to stay on the YouTube channel, please hit a like, subscribe. It does help. I don't know what new things and features that I now have access to. If I can maybe put a private channel or something like here on YouTube, if y'all want to support a little bit, just so we grow. that'd be amazing. So appreciate y'all. Peace, love, and blessings to you. Until next time, you have a great rest of your week.